Namaste everyone. So what is Kootaneeti? Before I can explain you Kootaneeti, you need to understand two other important words, namely Niti and Rajaniti. Every society, every family, every religion, every institution or even nation has had some or the other form of Niti. So Niti is essentially a sort of a code of conduct which you need to comply to be acceptable in a particular family, religious institution, or a political organization or any other place of work. If you do not conform to these nitis, you are not accepted and worse, even thrown out. No two nitis are the same. For example, the niti of one religion is not the same as the niti of the other religion. These two religions, of as we have seen across the history, they end up conflicting with each other, killing each other, and sometimes even their own people. So to maintain the order, there is something called as Rajniti or politics. Now, politics is assuming power by position, and actual intent of politics is to establish a balance and make sure that the world or the people in that specific nation are living and progressing harmoniously. Now, we also know that people, when they are in positions of power, often end up abusing their power. So, when they abuse their power, we have in the West revolution. So, for example, we have had the Marxist revolutions in the Europe, we have seen the Maoist revolution in China, we have seen Islamic revolution in Middle East, and so on and so forth. And as we all know, more than often, such revolution end up creating a worse situation than their predecessors. So to ensure that there is a balance and harmony and people or individual with despotic tendency don't stay in the positions of power, the Vedic rishis devised this very advanced knowledge which comprises of management, leadership, economics, politics, as well as diplomacy, called as Kootaneeti. Now, Kootaneeti as a word is made of two different Vedic Sanskrit words, namely Kuta or discreet and Niti implying conduct. How do you conduct yourself calm and composed? That was the idea behind Kootaneeti. We don't know how many people actually use Kootaneeti in the history of this country because the very knowledge have been significantly secretive. And the concept of Kootaneeti, if you need to understand, you need to go across the Vedic text, starting all the way from Ramayana to Mahabharata to the Upanishads and even Niti Shastras and Dharma Shastras. The Kootaneeti is about handling the people with power through the absolute application of intellect. And Kootaneeti was extremely efficient is because it understood the mind, individual as well as collective. The fascinating thing about humanity is that whatever we do is owing to our mind. And if you can understand the mind, you can find ways to handle that mind in a better way. Let me tell you two interesting parables here. There was a great legendary person in the history of India called as Chanakya. He was a person who installed the Mauryan Empire to replace a despotic kingdom of the Nandas. He had every opportunity with him to assume the power, but instead he placed a deserving person in the position of the king, Chandragupta Maurya. He got a very able administrator called Katyayana and made him Maha or the prime minister, and a whole bunch of other people as the council of ministers. And once the entire kingdom of Maurya was established, he said, now I am leaving. There is an interesting legend here. So it so happened that when he was about to leave, the Maha of Mauryas or the prime minister of Mauryas, Katyayana, stopped him and said, Acharya, that is professor, you built this empire, at least live for some time and enjoy it and reap its benefits. And Kautilya said, son, there are only two ends to power. One, either you relinquish power or the power will relinquish you. If you relinquish the power, you are liberated. But if the power relinquishes you, you are desecrated. If we go through the history, we know that Chanakya didn't become the prime minister as it is sometimes wrongly said in our textbooks. He just left the place. But then the Mauryan Empire grew to be one of the massive empires on the facet of earth, and its borders were all the way from Gandhara, the modern day Afghanistan, to Cambodia in Cambodia, and Himalayas in the north to the Vindhyas in the south. So how did the Mauryas accomplish it? There is a second important person, very little known student of Chanakya named Sharanga. Now, Sharanga expanded the empire beyond the original place of the Mauryas, which was Pataliputra, the modern day Patna in Bihar state of India, and it grew phenomenally. But there were no bloodbaths. We never hear anywhere in the history, including the historians of the left or the right, that Mauryas went on a military spree like Alexander the Great. But how did they achieve it? If you would want to know that, you just have to study Kootaneeti, because Kootaneeti will give you the mechanism how you can bring people, even the varying faction, into a single fold with the absolute application of intellect and with little to no application of violence. And that is the one important reason why the Vedic kings never invested significantly in using and developing the arm, because the war is not fought with guns. Any conflict starts with your mind. So if you know how the mind works, if you give yourself to it, then you can always come up with an idea to circumvent it and establish peace. Another thing, what is very important to know here, is that a great many of the political problems we face today are also emotional. Where do the emotion comes from? The mind. If we go through all the problems that we are seeing in our life, be it personal life, professional life, or the career, they are all the problems that come from the mind. And how much have we understood the mind? The modern science can't even differentiate between mind and the brain, whereas Kootaneeti teaches us how the mind works and how the mind can be restricted. Anything that humans are dependent on, be that something with the stock markets, economics, politics, or even the religion or anything, they are all based on the mind. So if you understand the mind, you can understand the limitation, you can anticipate. Knowing the concept of dharma and karma, you can project things better than any stupid prediction. So the Kootaneeti is very relevant even today, not just in the diplomatic or the political front, but even in our personal life. So, while the West has had something to do with Niti as a code of conduct in a specific environment, and Rajaniti or Vedic approach to politics, they never had anything like Kootaneeti. Kootaneeti is an unparalleled knowledge. To be honest, on a different note, if you go to a professor of political science and ask him that what does it require to be a powerful politician, he doesn't know the answer. He can tell you stories. So the modern politics is something about history of politics, or simply economics, or some warfare, but not about politics. They do not understand power. And believe me, the power is not limited by some electoral system. You do not have to be a person with position to be in power. And as the great rishis say in Kootaneeti, any position that gets you power, it also get you a lot of pain. So anything that brings you pleasure comes with an add-on benefit of being a pain. So if you want to lead a life, you want to do a business, everything is about politics. Everything is about the political implications of some laws that is out in here. Not everyone wants to get into politics. So it is important that you understand the politics not as some stupid electoral process, but as a mechanism as to how the power works and how do you play it to your benefit, to benefits of your known and everyone else. And that is why Kootaneeti is extremely important. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for all your encouragement. Let me know if you like this, or even if you don't, it will definitely help me to understand things better and create better videos. Thank you, pranam and namaste.